So hello everyone, welcome here to another practicing session at the clavichord, again with Beethoven, of course, all in the framework of the Beethoven project. That's the project in which I'm going to record all works of Beethoven, solo works to start with, 60 in total over the coming 3 years, starting with the real recording sessions in October, November. So we're going to produce 22 CDs over the coming 3 years. On the clavichord, at the Frenzel pianoforte and at the Fritz piano, which is here, as you have seen yesterday. Today we're diving into Opus 49 number 2, which we finished fingerings last session. I continued doing that in the time between the session back then and the session here. And so this is really a first look to that sonata, which, by the way, in Beethoven's mind was just a sonatina. The Opus 49, 1 and 2 are written in 1795-ish something, but published later, hence the opus number, which doesn't fit actually chronologically into the other works. So it's much earlier than if you just see the score and the publications and the opus number and expect from that opus number. So on Monday, as the schedule is for now, we'll have live streams at the Frenzel or at the Fritz when it is really ready for you to hear it. I will try to keep those live at 7:30 p.m. That's Brussels time. So for the Thursday sessions, we move to 7:30 as well. Times can change because we're figuring out what works best for people who want to attend the live streams or these pre-recorded sessions. So these Thursday sessions, they may go live once in a while, but it really comes in handy for me to pre-record those sessions and to publish them as a premiered video which allows you to have the communication tool, the chat, which I know so many of you enjoy. So if you watch the replay of these videos, these live streams, take a note of the time schedule. So Monday 7:30 p.m. live at the pianos, and Thursday 7:30 p.m. same time as for now, and join this community and hanging out with each other. I see a lot of nice conversations in the chat. On Monday, always Anya is there as a moderator. On Thursday, we try to be there in the chat as well, if time allows, which is another unique feature that I can communicate and hang out with you from time to time in this way as well. So you will have two whims, so to say, one who is speaking and playing and one who is in the chat. So that's for now. Okay. Having said all that, I hope I didn't miss anything. What's more important than going to play and try this music out? So let's do that. Here's my metronome. And by the way, I should mention that in every live session or every practicing session, that all of this Beethoven preparation, I'm doing that from the perspective of double beat, which is a metronome theory that goes back into the 19th century and even back into the 15th, 16th, 17th century, which actually is very simple. It's a very practical way of using a pendulum or a metronome. And it's very easily explained by just demonstrating. If you take a metronome, and this will sound, let me position it here. Instead of adhering the metronome number, and so the note value that's in the metronome number, to everything, you do it to 2 ticks, which makes sense. It's like a conductor. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and so on. I would say 5, but 5 in a 4/4 signature. Anyway, this makes sense. It's not only been described like that. Of course, we don't have a letter from Beethoven explaining how he used the metronome, but if you apply this system, not only are you will see that the metronome numbers given by those early 19th century composers and musicians perfectly make sense. They are playable, because they are not. And if people say, yeah, they're all playable, you would be amazed how many metronome numbers we have that simply don't make sense. I'll come with a list of hundreds of them in a few weeks and months. You just need time to prepare those, but they're not hard to find. Just go on IMSLP. So applying that theory not only makes all of these works playable and makes musically so much sense, but you connect that to the 18th century practice of the tempo ordinario. So I'm not diving into that too much, but I think if you're new here, that you might want to have this update, because that's guiding us throughout this whole project. And by the way, guys, I don't know if you have noticed, this metronome fits my clavichord perfectly. I mean, how cool is that? At the bottom, you have this. I would like to replace this because it's not nicely done. This is a gift by Lorenz Guardian, by the way. It's a 19th century metronome. I will make a video on that because some of you might know even more about the history. It works perfectly. It's perfectly in time with my digital app. How cool is that? Sometimes you will hear a little bit of oh, that's a difficult word. Not ticking. Too regular. Sometimes it does, sometimes it's a little bit off. It doesn't matter, because overall the time is perfect. I used my digital app more. But how cool is it that this just fits my clavichord? And I don't think that's by accident. The whole clavichord is designed from the principle of a system in which you can divide by numbers by 12. So 12 kind of, I don't know what Juris applied as a measurement. I mean, the Saxon foot was so many centimeters, and it turns out that you can divide this by 12. So the whole instrument is designed in this same, the word that I want to use escapes me, you know, it's not balanced, it's in correlation to each other. I wouldn't even know in Dutch what it means. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So you have a system of proportions, that's that. So that maybe this was still a tradition back then. It fits perfectly. I didn't know until now. So, okay, let's dive into this music, which is not too difficult to play. And that allows us to maybe do some more experimentation, because we have two metronome numbers here. Yeah, you'll have more, but I focus most on Czerny and Mocheles. So we have Czerny half note 104. There is a Hallberger edition, which is also made by Czerny with half note 100. So 100, 104 for the half note diminutive, so to say. That's what Czerny concerns. Mocheles has 3 times quarter note, crotchet 160, and also one time 104 for the minimum. So that's cool. Oftentimes you see those two musicians, they both knew Beethoven, they were really embedded in the context of their time. They are also aware, they were aware of what happened in the evolution of going faster. So musicians played faster and faster from the 1830s, 1840s onwards. That's very well documented, in fact. It surprised me a lot that people still think that's not true. It's so obvious. You read it everywhere in that time. But Czerny and Mocheles, they are aware of that, and they are more or less embedded in the 18th century practice. So certainly for Beethoven, there are major sources of tempo indications, and most of the times their numbers really relate to one to another. Here you have from Mocheles as a slower number. And so last time we checked and we said, well, it's not so bad, this slower version. It sounds a little bit off tempo at the beginning, but after a while it's working, certainly in the middle sections of this. So what I want to do now is just go through part 1, perhaps part 2 if time allows, the minuet, and see what difference we get from this, from these different metronome numbers. So let's walk the most difficult path and start with the fastest metronome number. It's more difficult to go backwards and slower, hence the tons of reactions people have when you play slower than average. It's much easier to go faster, but so we start the hard way, Czerny, because it was initially my instinctive tempo for this piece as well. So what I will do is play perhaps the first section, the A section, and then try it again in Mocheles tempo. And then we'll try to break it down. I wanted to say something up front. These are not finished recordings. I have to repeat that often. This is a practicing session. It's a tryout. The first standalone recordings of the practicing sessions are coming, and also those are tryouts. So I'm sharing with you here everything. Well, not everything, but a lot. Okay, that's not so weird as a tempo, I would say. That sounds rather okay. But let's try 160, but that will be a lot slower. Let's try to. If the metronome is really fast, like 160, you need a little bit of time to align with it. check if I still have the tempo. Yeah, I think so. So that's really cool. So now I have, if we set those numbers equal to the minimum, we have 80 and 104, and I think you can experience now how different those tempi are. So changing tempo is changing everything. Write that in big letters above your bed, everywhere in your study room, practicing room. Changing tempo is changing everything. And the closer, that's my experience, the closer you come to, you know, hitting at least what you feel is the sweet spot of a certain piece, you will see that the slightest changes. By the way, those are airplanes. I called to the military Air Force here in Belgium to please be calm for an hour, but they didn't listen. Anyway, the Fritz is very well protected. That's how I see it. Anyway, if you are in this sweet spot range, and this is not regardless of any tempo you take. So if you say, I play much faster, typically that doesn't work for that. And I have the experience because I played in conservatory exactly like everyone else. I mean, I didn't get my degree in piano playing in Amsterdam, one of the places on this planet for piano study, just by playing in double beat. No way. I got the remark of playing that I should play a little bit faster, but eventually, of course, I played like everyone else. But the experience I have is that once you are far away from this kind of sweet spots in music, it doesn't matter playing a little bit faster or even way faster or slow. There is not so much that happens with the music. And I've had always the experience that the reason why that is that you are so way off message. Sounds maybe weird, but try it out. The only thing that remains when you take this kind of music way out of the scope in which it was mentioned or composed, at least as I think, is that the only thing you remain is a kind of rhythmical experience with sometimes an harmonic shift over longer periods, because the microscopic, small things that change in rhythm and in harmony, you cannot experience that. It's way too fast. So if you change then the tempo, not much is changed. But if you hit the sweet spot, going from 160 or 80 for the minimum, for the half note, to 88, it's a different world. So we're talking here from 80 to 104. That's really a different world. So here we have a choice. And does that mean that, well, am I allowing myself now to say, well, everything between 80 and 104 is something that can be considered? Yeah, of course. In one way, that's true. In the other way, on the other hand, that's not true, because 3 times for Mocheles, he gave 3 times permission to publish that number of quarter note 160, minimum 80. Well, 3 times he felt that to be the definitive tempo. If I'm going to play in 88, I'm changing that tempo, the mark. So it's you know, I'm just sharing this with you now because we shouldn't be, at one hand, of course, slaves of the metronome and of those tempi given by Czerny and Mocheles. Of course not. But they are too big of inspirations, and also in the field of, if you really want to reconstruct what was close to Beethoven, you will not get closer than this. Never. Those tempo indications are almost CD recordings without sound. But we know how fast these people played, at least if you apply double beat, because in single beat there is no explanation for these metronome numbers. So it's not something that you can take lightly if you are really serious about reconstructing these things. And again, here we have 2 numbers. My first impression is the same as you might have at the beginning. My God, this is really slow. But as the piece evolves, my impression is that in the Mocheles tempo, you have way more, and that's the coffee machine, by the way, turning itself off. You have way more possibilities to give a deeper expression in this piece. I have to say, if I play in 104, Let's check the tempo again. So this becomes a little bit light-weighted sometimes. And so on. So in 160, it's a little bit more substantial. Well, let's take 80 now for the sake of comparison. I can hold those notes a little bit long. Also here, ja da 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 da. So, my first initial impressions are, again, at the beginning, this is slow, but very soon that feeling is replaced by, oh, now I can give a little bit time here, I can do things that I couldn't do in Czerny's tempo, like here. So Beethoven creates all this space here to do that. He has his left hand, and then he stops, basically to give a kind of continual accompaniment. Why? Because the right hand starts to sing, starts to make a story, to share a story, for which it needs time. So, end of the bow, articulation, accent. Accent. Yeah, in those airplanes we will have for the whole session, I'm afraid. Imagine that I'm preparing for a recording, making a recording of a video, and they hang above my head, you know. So I want to have the studio. So let's try this tempo. If I would end now, after several times playing this and just going over this, and the piece develops in your mind, you know how this works. You wake up at night and suddenly there are all these rooms. That's at least with me. If I then hear the music that I practiced, and I can close the door again and another door opens and there is another piece, as if all that music that you're practicing is just behind closed doors playing all the time, the impression I have, then you know for sure the piece is developing in the right way. So then you come back to the instrument and typically will have that feeling of, I'm always looking at the computer, but I should look to you here in the camera. You'll have that feeling, oh, now I have these insights that I didn't have before, and that's because the piece develops unconsciously in the basement of your brain or heart or whatever. So if I end on 80 or 92, I wouldn't have sleepless nights, because that's the right you have as a musician. Mocheles describes that as well somewhere. I will share that quote. It's a beautiful one. So you have, but once you take this outside the scope where you say, well, now I'm changing something fundamental, then you have probably done something that's maybe not related to the original information. So yeah, I didn't want to have this session on tempo and what the implication is, but it might be not a bad idea from time to time to share that with you, because that's a question I often get. The metronome, it's a boring device. No, it opens information. Yeah, the device is a stupid device. Tick, 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 tick. But this is fourth dimension. We can recreate with this what actually happened in those days. I mean, how cool is that? The few things do this. So, and yet we disregard that information en masse. I'm going to quickly turn off the camera and switch it on again. And there I am again. So the Mocheles tempo, let's try that for the middle section. try the Czerny tempo also. Just switching. Yeah, that works. Still, if you go here. It's something in the back of my mind that says, ho, let's listen to this first. But yeah, this is we'll see how this develops. I mean, let's try the Mocheles tempo again. So I try to stick to those tempos now for a while, to experience really what I mean. Yeah, we will see how the piece develops. Now, honestly, my initial reaction to this music is, if you compare that to the G minor sonatina, so the first one, I've recorded that on Sunday, so that will be on the channel in a few weeks. We'll see, 2 or 3 weeks or something. The G minor is deeper. It's I wouldn't say better music, but it leans to better music. This first movement of this sonata is nice, but it's not the kind of music I think that will keep you busy during months. It's just nice music. That's everything I can say. So adding a little bit of expression to that just by the tempo is a win-win, I think, here. But again, we'll see how it develops. The minuet, we have still some time. The kids might come back from school. It's Wednesday now, so, but I told Anya, don't mind, just come in and I will stop when you come in. That's a good sign. So the minuet, we have the opposite of what is in the first movement. So there you have basically one tempo, as I've indicated here from Czerny. It's 112 for the quarter note. So that's much slower than we today hear this piece in. And Mocheles has also 112 and 126, which is quite faster. So the common number here is 112, and typically if I want to try things out, I start, if those two have a common number, which is often the case, then I start playing that. So that's what the crotchet, the quarter note. You'll hear that much faster. Okay. So if you recover from your initial shock here, which I can imagine you'll have, then I play it again and now try to not think about the fact, oh my god, this is slow. Try to think about the extremely nice rhythm you get. That and suddenly there is a new world that opens, I hope. See, it makes more sense, I hope. I do it a third time. So, and guys, if you play on a modern piano, these kind of things become, these kind of movements where the left hand needs to have this punchiness, that you becomes more difficult, even on the pianoforte. It's so hard to control this region, because it's so powerful there. The clavichord, in a way, is also powerful in the tenor range. But in a way, the sound develops differently or less. I don't know how it can, but it's so much easier to balance. You can play, let's say, relatively fortissimo here in the tenor range, and still the melody will be clear. If you do that, what I did now on the piano, and yeah, there's no way I can demonstrate that because I need to reposition everything. You will see how much more difficult it is. It's possible, but this left hand becomes so much more present that it gets the attention that it actually should not have. Here, by playing it like this, not saying that you should, but that's how I feel it now. By playing it a little bit staccato, not like portato, I don't know what names we give today for that. It's something in between legato and not legato. There are no names for that, actually. That's the reason I think why they didn't indicate that. But by doing it like that, the right hand suddenly becomes so prominent. And suddenly it feels like as if you need the time for that. So let's do it again. Just the breathing tone. It's so gentle suddenly. Always look forward when you play, Wim. It goes well, it's of course not so difficult. I mean, people sometimes comment, my single beating friends I would say, and they say, well, yeah, you have found a really great way to sight read everything. Yeah, we're still looking to the computer. I mean, what did people do back then? They were sight reading everything. But I invite everybody to try sight reading everything. But if that wouldn't work for a sonatina or a sonata like this, even after making the fingerings, yeah, then we would have a problem, I think. It's not difficult music. And there is, of course, no secret that playing in double beat makes technical side of things much easier. What's the problem with that? the musical sides of things becomes much more complicated and challenging. But that's another story. There goes my pencil for the zillionth time in my life. When I played the organ, I had a little rope on my pencil and it was hanging on a stop knob, you know, because it fell all the time, and then it fell. Can you imagine? I cannot think about the word anymore. It fell between the pedal board keys, and so in the worst case scenario, I had to remove the pedal board in order to take your pencil, to recover your pencil. So yeah, that's the first tool you need. Okay, I think, yeah, we could go through the minuet. There are things to say, but in general, this is, I think, yeah, was perfect session for this sonatina. On the Beethoven project, this will be a sonatina. So I will use the same terminology as Czerny uses for that, which apparently was also Beethoven. So 29 sonatas. And the 3 we have now as sonatas were originally sonatinas. I believe. So next session will be on Monday, and either I'm going through the A major sonata again, or we just continue with the C major sonata by Beethoven, which I have not finished, but I'm working on that. And there are, yeah, of course, that's music, yeah, you may safely say on another level than this sonata. There is tons of things we can say about that. Really interesting. Okay, guys, hope you liked this session. Hope you had a good time in the chat. And I thank you for watching. Leave your questions in the comment section box if you have one after the video has been uploaded. After the live stream or this pre-recorded premiere is ended, you will see that the video is showing up, maybe even in your notification system, I don't know, as a regular video, and then we go back to the normal comment section system. So if you leave notice in the chat here, I will not probably see that unless I'm in the chat, actually. Well, if that makes sense. But use the comment section also if you watch this later, if you have questions regarding the sonata, and I will see that. So thank you for watching. Thanks to my Patreons. As always, they support the channel in an unbelievable way. And if you have just a minute, there's in the description box, there is a link to my Patreon page. I would appreciate that very much. 1 minute of your time, and see if it's something for you. I share a lot of information there now, just between sessions, things that I come up with, recordings that I hear online that I want to share with you, some little things. Sometimes I make a behind the scenes video of what is going on here with me as a musician, with the Beethoven project, with the business of that authentic sound is becoming. So if all of that, and we have a monthly hangout in which actually there are also wonderful sessions with people that get to know each other better and better. And so if that's something for you, even throwing $1 a month would make a difference. So thank you for that. And for now, hope you have a good time today, and we see each other soon again. Bye.